live. Hello everyone, how you all doing today? My name is Voice of Reason 467, and here I have with me Yukaphile, aka Siberian Streamer, aka the Queen Diclonius, as you can see here. He wanted to do a bit of a segment uh, on DC Comics and getting him into the whole series and whatnot. And I figured since I know a little bit about DC Comics, not specifically reading any comics in any regards. I mean, I do have some comics in the background, as you can see here. But for the most part, most of what I know about the DC universe comes from the general cultural osmosis of geekdom, knowing certain things, having certain stories described to me, and looking stuff up. I know more about certain characters, but today we're going to be introducing ourselves to a known character called Captain Adam. But before we do, go ahead and introduce yourself, Yukaphile, or Diclonius.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my history with comics is as a kid, I would watch like a lot of the classic movies, like with Superman and Batman. Those were the ones with Christopher Reeve and Tim Burton. And I watched a lot of the Batman the animated series, and I know about that stuff to osmosis, like you said. But uh, for me, a big portion of my past was in the battle horde culture, which was debating which character defeats which character. A lot of the information I obtained was during the big brouhaha with Death Battle and the Goku versus Superman 2 battle. And I've always
Hmm.
been willing to read comics, I just never really had a place to find to go to do it. And it, well, my bias is I hope to get into the post-crisis era and see a lot of their classic stories. I've recently seen Green Lantern the animated series, and I feels like a good springboard to get into the Green Lantern comics and a lot of the explore the mythology.
Yeah, there's a lot of mythology to go over with, especially with regards to DC, because they've published so much information and so many stories over time. That's hard to know any of this stuff nowadays unless you've been following for decades.
Yeah.
So and then of course New 52 came up and everyone hated that. So, but we're not going to be discussing that. We're just going to be going through the post-crisis stuff. So yeah, we're going to be going through the first 11 issues of here, possibly. Um, not too sure how fast we're going to get through it. Hopefully we can. Might end up making a part two at some point. But yeah, why don't you bring up the screen sharing here, and we can go ahead and see what we're going to be dealing with in the first issue.
Let's see. Are you plugged in?
Let's see
Are
here.
you
Yeah,
just having
I'm. Well, do you want me to Do you want me to share my screen, or do you want to share your screen?
want to share mine, but it's like it's having a hard time connecting you.
Weird.
Or can you see though?
No, I can't for some reason. Let me see if I can go ahead and share my screen real quick. Rather, let's see here. See if I can do it on my end here. Showing up on your end. Hmm.
Possibly it has something to do with my VPN being on. I could disconnect it and come back in a second.
Yeah, sure, sure. Go ahead and do that then. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, anyways, while we're waiting for that, I might as well just go ahead and show you guys uh, the. Here we go.
Let me try and see if I can do this again.
All right, there we go. I can see your screen now.
Ooh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. that.
let's go over the cover real quick because I think this would be important. After they blow him to bits, the adventure begins. What an intro! Holy fucking Christ! I can imagine when people saw this on the shelves here, that they were kind of wondering what the fuck is this thing, and like I know who Captain Atom is, but what the hell? Because apparently they revamped Captain Atom. It used to be a guy who just could control things from the atomic level, but he himself was mostly in a suit, if you would, from what I can recall. So, and this particular introduction to the character was probably very interesting. But then again, it does make sense considering the fact that what was it, Mr. Manhattan, rather Doctor Manhattan, was modeled after Captain Atom, apparently.
He
Uh,
looks
t-
kind of like him, just from what I've seen.
yeah, yeah. In fact, his powers are basically the same as Doctor Manhattan's, except Doctor Manhattan's powers are like amplified quite a bit to their most ludicrous conclusion. So, yeah, let's go to the next page then. Yeah, yeah. So, as you can see here, it's got that classic sort of '80s comic vibe, but primarily speaking, it's got a lot of text on here, which mm, I guess is all right, all things considered. I do like the fact that the computers there are like look so outdated from our perspective, but from then this must have been like looking like high tech stuff, like stuff that they'd never seen before. Mm. So yeah, in this one apparently he's going through an experiment, and one of the things he's trying to do is getting a sentence commuted, if you would, for a crime that suffice to say he was framed for. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
Um, hmm, that he's typical comic intro.
Yeah, pretty typical for its time. I like the amount of detail that goes into this, like the fact that they came up with a docket number here, and I wonder if that's going to come up later in the series. So yeah, and of course here we have sort of an overview of the facility that he was engaging in. So it gives us sort of a perspective as to how deep this particular experiment goes. uh, yeah. Yeah. He also has a problem with his wife, obviously, going in there. So, and yeah, um, when it comes, let's see here, when it comes to this one here, there's apparently a point of origin in which he gets flung into the future, and apparently the place in which he gets flung from the future uh, was like he what was it the year he ended up getting gets flung from, specifically his point of origin, is right around I believe when Captain Atom initially sort of came out. The first issue of Captain Atom, they decided to go and do that, but instead he's been flung. I think like almost 40 years into the future, which it's like, oh man, that's like pretty bad there, because he's going from the 40s all the way up into like the 80s there.
Yeah. It reminds me of the DC 1 million, where they've gone into the future before.
Hmm. Oh, hold on for a second. I forgot to bring up YouTube chat. Let me go ahead and fix this real quick because there might be some people talking a little bit about this. Hold on. In the chat there. Or maybe people asking some stuff here. Hold on. Let's go ahead and. Nope, no one's particularly said anything in the chat there, but I'm gonna put it on the docket anyways. I almost forgot about that. It's fine. You can continue to show this stuff off. Comment on it if you can. So, you know.
He's turned into a puddle.
Not necessarily. He's being. If you can go back for a bit, um, what's happening there is that he's being encased and surrounded in a shell of energy, specifically the the egg that he's sort of in, if you would. And I like the fact that he's also in an egg. You know, it's sort of an indication of rebirth. You know, um, and in many ways, it's very apropos given what he's going to be going through later on. Um, but yeah, the whole like thing that he was in sort of just wraps around to him in sort of a natural form of armor, but it protects him, keeps his body together because he's made of pure energy now. In fact, that's the thing with Captain Atom is that his suit is meant to help contain his powers and his power so that way he can focus himself and focus his abilities. So. And this is a bit of the past here on what's going on, you know?
Alien ship.
Yep. That's that was actually the type of alloy that was wrapped around him. In fact, that's actually what was reacting the way in which it does. It's not a normal alloy, so it doesn't come from Earth, and that's why it's had that sort of properties. You notice that there's a lot of sci-fi, there's a lot of science fiction tendencies here. I like the fact that his name was Captain Adam, as in Adam. You know that was his rank as well as his name.
Captain.
But then they go from Captain Adam to Captain Atom. Huh. Not very subtle there, but still it works, I suppose.
I don't know why Cameron Mitchell and Stargate SG-1.
Oh well, be quiet. Sorry, my dog, my brother's dog is sort of growling, and she might make some noise here.
Yeah, this reminds me of I'm recently getting into the MCU, and I passed Captain Atom. This is like the same thing that happened in Captain America, basically.
Oh yeah, yeah. Except instead of being frozen in ice, he's flung through time.
You know, see it, the experiment freaking out. I bet.
Oh no, this is an experiment freaking out. This is more or less him reappearing back in time. You know, he was displaced in time, then he got flung forward, and this is him reappearing. Yeah.
What's that? No, they hit it. The laser beam. he went down.
Yep. I find the art style to be fairly expressive, even though for its time it's fairly old. So
SST.
sorry, what? Oh no, I'm not. I'm not drinking tea. Water.
I was just wondering about that. The SST. Probably some space plane thing.
Oh, okay, okay. You're referring to that. Yeah, I'm not familiar with what SST would be. So, like I said, I've only read through the first three issues here, um, and then and it's not so much that it's a bad comic series. It's just that I got distracted and had to do some other stuff and never came back to it.
Yeah. I mean, this is the same world that Superman is supposed to be in, so I'm sure they know about aliens.
Yeah, I mean, he arrives around the same time that Superman does, so
Yeah.
in fact, the thing I've heard about this comic by and large is that it starts out with Captain Atom, or rather Captain Atom, and then it sort of slowly opens up in which we're introduced to like other heroes being referenced, other organizations being started by heroes. In fact, he's the first leader of the Justice League.
Yeah. And they're shooting at him, and
Yeah, the bullets don't do anything, and you know,
he never did.
yeah.
It looks just like a heap of flesh.
Not quite. It's his suit. You know, the
That's that's what he that's what he said when he was being sprung in that machine.
yep.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Majin Buu.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yep. And now we're getting some description on what's happening here. He's molting his initial like skin, I guess you might call it, into something a little bit more robust and something more hardier. But for the most part, he's just simply experiencing sort of a metamorphosis. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing as well. Like, he can basically reproduce any kind of energy he can think of. So if he went toe to toe with Superman, one of the things he would be doing is that he would be um, like reproducing red sun energy around his fist to be able to fight him.
be able to produce any form of energy like sunlight, solar, electrical. That is interesting.
Yeah. And here the scientists and the general are freaking the fuck out regarding this. So
Oxygen amount. He can breathe many gases now.
hmm.
Yeah, it's invincible. Oh, now he looks like when I first did my download spree of this for a while ago, I noticed that he looks kind of like silver chrome, like like the future world of the early SpongeBob series. All
That
chrome.
is, yeah, yeah, all chrome. Even everything that grows up and is like biological, it's all chrome. So, but yeah, it is very interesting to see this metamorphosis taking place, especially considering how powerful he becomes later on. You know. Oh, by the way, if you don't want to keep scrolling up to click on the next one, just click on the page there, and it will take you to the next page.
Yeah, I know. I don't mind scrolling up.
All right.
Every 2 cents yet, he's still repeating that.
Yep. Because he thinks it's just been a day. He thinks, when in reality it's been like decades.
Oh, he's old now.
Yeah, and this is General Eiling, by the way. In case
By
of
the way.
yeah, remember he was the in the original Superman the animated series as well as the Justice League. Eiling was a part of the Cadmus project. In case if you don't recall.
I never advanced that far into it, but I do have them. Should probably do that.
Yeah. General Eiling has always been someone who's been on Superman's ass and has never really been someone who's been trusting of him whatsoever. He's always viewed him as sort of a threat.
Yeah, because it'd be pretty hard to stop him if he was.
Yep.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah. If you've noticed, by the way, the moment he put his head just put his head up there, he kind of broke through the barrier there, and he's just like sitting up, and it just snaps there.
uh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, he was a full bird colonel. I was a 2-star general.
Yeah.
He's the big sea cancer, isn't he? Oh yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. R.I.P.
Oh, I guess he was in the '60s. My bad. Was in the '40s. Huh.
Guess so
Well,
that makes it 20 years.
yeah, it would be like 2 decades.
Oh, you're right, he just smashes it.
Yep.
Jack Benny in the ground.
Yeah.
Anwar Sadat, Indira Gandhi, Tomlin. Oh yeah, I remember that. I'm
Yep.
almost there. Oh, and his wife's dead too. That
Yep.
happened. Ooh, now he's harnessing the power of rage fire.
Yeah, and he's just like really mad at the moment, and he just thinks that he's being lied to, but he doesn't realize that this is all the truth, you know.
They still don't know that it's him.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna find out eventually. So, and Eiling is one of those guys that doesn't really trust Captain Atom, even though he's like, uh, anyways, he's like a soldier for the military. I think he works for them as a part of the Justice League too, as sort of its leader.
Yeah. That's what they did. They detonated a nuke under him.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Now this guy in particular is very interesting. Um, Dr. Megala. He's basically a head in a jar, if you would.
Looks that way.
Oh, this is one of the original scientists that came back, or rather that ended up doing the experiment. But there he is, right there, as you can see. Um,
Yeah.
he was the head of the directory at some point, but um, the thing is that he acts sort of as a mentor to Captain Atom. So
Yeah. Yeah, it, he just looks so goofy, I love it. Relativistic physics. Yeah. Yeah, because why not? Why not bump them through the fourth dimension despite there being no scientific proof? I love this.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
love the art. I love the artwork to that guy right there. The grizzled kind of beard, the eye patch.
yeah.
It's good.
I do kind of find the eye patch a little bit much, to be perfectly honest. It would have been interesting to have him have like some kind of crazy eye implant as opposed to like just. I mean, the guy is basically a fucking walking like head in a jar for all intents and purposes. So why not go the extra mile? Replace his eye with some sort of freaky looking cybernetic.
It's like Borg.
Yeah.
So he's basically part alien spaceship now.
Yep. They were testing the alloy um, to see whether or not it can like defend against something like a nuclear radioactive blast, and obviously he was supposed to be in there to see if he would still be affected by such a thing. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, this happened to him rather instead of just surviving the explosion or dying. Which would explain why it is that they were going so deep below underground, you know?
And nuclear blast is nothing to. Yeah.
Yep. It's why we test them over in deserts rather than near and around populated places, you know? It's best. And honestly, like, detonating one underground, depending on how far it is either a good idea or a bad idea. So,
Yeah, test site Trinity. I do want to say though, I like that it feels very comic book than just what you expect and what you hear, which is that there's a freak accident, a lab experiment, and then it's good. I like it. It's
yeah. It's
just
def.
curious,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
curious to see where this is gonna go.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the classics, you know, because a lot of superheroes end up getting their origins like this. Like, you know, with Spider Man, you know, Peter Parker gets bitten by a radioactive spider that ends up escaping from its like little containment center and just bites him, and he gets that. So
Oh boy, he's conspiring to assassinate this Dr. Megala character.
yep. and this is why he becomes this sort of mentor, in order to be able to get some protection from General Eiling.
I wonder what was the original Captain Adam like? Was did he have an origin story or no?
I'm not exactly familiar with his origin story because again, I'm not exactly as familiar with the character of Captain Adam, but I am. But I do know for a fact that he didn't have these kinds of powers. He did control energy, from what I can recall, and he was able to like manipulate atoms. But he did so primarily through technology and through various different enhancements of him in cybernetics and whatnot. But beyond that, I'm not exactly aware of familiar with the character all that much. So this is like once we get through the 11 issues, you're probably going to be in the same boat as I am in terms of experiencing his character.
Ooh, of the E1, I was Alien.
Yeah. E.T. If he doesn't get his ET back in mint condition, you'll be cataloging ice flows in Antarctica. That is kind of how the military sometimes works, with researchers. If they don't get their results, they will just simply shove them into a place in Antarctica and they'll probably almost never be seen from or heard from again because, they don't want them to be heard or seen from again.
Yeah, and I've seen that elsewhere.
Yeah, I do kind of like how the military isn't exactly shown in like a very decent light, even though this is like right after the end of the Cold War with Russia
I
sort of or rather the
I
Soviet Union collapsing the way in which it does.
I like how Stargate SG-1 made the military look so good.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess in a situation like that, I suppose it would make sense. What with dealing with like extraterrestrials and interdimensional travel and stuff like that. So, but all in all, I prefer when the military is shown to be kind of crass and egotistical and controlling because that's basically how the military is, specifically with the U.S. Um, but yeah,
They're sending up a missile for some reason. And they mentioned Star Wars.
yep. General Eiling is one of those characters who's basically kind of a
Harvey.
General Eiling is basically like a similar character to that of General Ross from Marvel Comics, except his obsession is like keeping America safe from metahumans, whereas like General Ross is just totally obsessed with the Hulk, rather.
There it goes. Huh. He's got some kind of needle.
Yeah. Yeah, if you remember, General Eiling was going to assassinate Dr. Magella, which, like as you can see here, it doesn't exactly go well for him.
So that's the Babylon dude I take. It kind of reminds me of Kill or something. Oh, killed him instead.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna poison him? Here, let me help. Let me help you use your own fucking little thing against you." You know. Potassium chloride. You know, let me look that up real quick. I'm not too sure. Ah, potassium chloride is a medicine used to prevent or treat low potassium levels in the body. Potassium is a mineral that your body needs for proper functioning of the heart, muscles, kidneys, nerves, and digestive system. Certain diseases and illnesses and drugs can remove the potassium from the body. Okay, so I'm guessing this was like a potassium chloride overdose then.
Yeah. No, the gentleman's really dead. What was he in the rocket? Let's see.
Yeah, that rocket we saw was carrying him, as you can see. They were trying to they were trying to punt his ass into space.
What's a good superhero worth of salt if he can't fly?
Well, he can fly. It just said he hasn't quite learned how to do that as much as he can, but he does eventually fly. This is what we call a sink or swim moment. You know.
Yeah. He's flowing.
Yep. Yep. Now he's flying.
Yeah. I kind of like what he sees. It. A Nehru jacket. Oh, I remember. I know what those are.
Let me look that up real quick. Hold on.
It's a thing from Toy Story 3 and Golden Girls.
Ah, okay, yeah, no, I see what it is now. So, yeah. Oh, hold on for a second. Ah, great. Let me just remove this from my little bar here so we don't get into the pop up like that. Alright. Yeah. So now he's finally beginning to believe the fact that he's been, like, flung 20 years into the future. Or, colloquially now, our past. uh, no, Roma. No, not right now. No, Roma. Go away.
1972.
Hey, real quick, I'm gonna pause the stream for a second. I need to get something in my stomach here.
Okay.
Okay, so I will be right back. And there we are. Okay, all right. So, and we are back now, and we are going to be. We're still going through the first issue right now at the moment, and
Yeah,
it would
it's a
appear.
it's a big double header. That's why it's taking a bit of time.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So uh, he finally figured out where he is, basically.
Or when he is, that is. Yeah.
Skin condition. Like it's some kind of flaky skin.
Well, interestingly enough, we find out that he can simply just change his skin color or change his appearance to really look like how he wants. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Aura. Yeah. So key, like Dragon Ball Z key.
not quite. Like it's this is more or less a physical field that encompasses each individual as well as like of all the universe itself. So it's not quite like key, not like key because key is more of something that's inside you, and something that can be brought out into like via other means and can be used to enhance the body and whatnot. But this is more or less the idea that the quantum field, as well as like the individual like underlying essences of who we are, of what we are in terms of atoms, is similar to that of what ancient mystics and Chinese masters used to call it. So
Yeah, I know that's as powerful as the quantum key. I sort of get
oh,
what they're doing, like disruptions and stuff like
oh, hold on for a second. My hold on. Let me go ahead and calm Rama down.
that.
Alright, my brother is taking care of it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, look, he's in sunglasses.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me almost of the Silver Surfer. That's something I want to get into too. Is the Silver Surfer. One character that intrigues me from Marvel is the Living Tribunal. I know all about in the MCU they did the Infinity War and whatever, but they did not have the Living Tribunal from what I see, and it's a shame because he sounds interesting.
Yeah. If you've seen the show Loki, you'll see that there's like the head of the Living Tribunal in the place where Loki goes to at the very end of time. So it's kind of implied that Kang killed the Living Tribunal, or a version of it, I guess.
Okay, yes, I'll get back to checking this out.
Yeah.
I think they're listening.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, look at those old-fashioned tape deck recorders.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now we use everything via digital rather than analog. Like this stream. Which, by the way, if you guys are liking some of the commentary, please like, comment, subscribe. And if you don't like it, just give a thumbs down. Just make sure to give me feedback so we know exactly how it is we're going to be doing this in the future. So, yeah.
What I like is the detail that's put into this. It just I like good detail in my stories.
Yep, I'm the same way. Especially with comics, it's kind of needed given the fact that it's a visual medium.
Yeah, it's very visual.
Yep.
But going to his mountain base.
That's a lot better. I just full screen the thing.
Okay.
My first time using Discord um, to stream content here, so I'm kind of new to this.
Yeah.
Now we get to see what his capabilities are in testing him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why it is that they were testing the nuclear stuff, was because apparently the metal absorbs energy. So,
Superconductive, superconductive material like the vernacular that makes up a Stargate.
yep,
That raises an interesting question that if you push him past his limit, he could explode because he's supercharged. That would be a huge blast.
yep. And given the fact that it interacted with his biology, that being that turned his body into pure energy, his suit is the only thing that sort of keeps him together.
Yeah, because energy is free flying it. The direct gravitational force. I like that. Little detail.
Yep. This is a long comic here. I think we might just go ahead and instead of going through issues 1 through 11, we'll probably just go through this one, and then we'll go through some of the other issues late at a later date. How's that sound?
Yeah, because I like to take my time when reading. I like to savor it if I'm getting into something new.
Yeah, true.
One thing I was wondering if how far back do we go for Green Lantern comics? Because if we're going to be doing this together, what I understand is that with the reboot of DC into the Silver Age, what was it, Earth One or Earth Two, that they created a new Green Lantern, not just a new Flash, and those stories look kind of good, to be honest. I mean, I
Well, like the Green Lantern stuff from the Silver Age, I can kind of understand why these people would want to get through that. But didn't you say you wanted to go ahead and do the post-crisis stuff? Because if we were going to do the Green Lantern stuff, I was figuring we would probably start with that.
yeah, I don't know. To be honest, it probably makes sense. I just like the stuff with Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan is interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hal Jordan is very interesting as a character. Although, if I'm being honest, I do think that the Green Lantern ring kind of works more for Kyle Rayner, given the fact that he's an artist and the entire thing works on imagination. It was kind of strange to have like I don't know a pilot as opposed to an artist be the main Green Lantern. So. But yeah, continue.
And it's just casually caught holding him up.
Yep. Seems he has superhuman strength and capabilities, just like Superman.
And they're spying on them. I like this idea that he's tapping into the quantum field. It's a good simplified way to do it while having enough detail to satisfy her.
Yeah, true. That's true. Come on, Kitty. Come on. Um, you keep wagging your tail and hitting my mouse there. So get over here. Kitty really wants to be in front of the in front of you.
Oval Office. Oh, is he talking about speaking to like the president or something? Hey. Oh yeah, I just want to speak on new forms.
Yeah.
Oh boy, something happened to them.
Yep. And interestingly enough, you know, what was it? This forces Adam into being a fugitive.
It's an interesting concept, like Frankenstein's monster. It's not new, but it's interesting.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Frankenstein's monster in this. Yeah, now that you mention it.
Ooh, that's such a cheesy superhero one. I love it. uh, he took on the form of Miguel.
Yep. Wilma, stop.
Oh no, let me guess. Oh boy. Oh boy, yes.
Yeah. The thing is that after they had thought that Adam here died, he ended up marrying his wife. As like as a means of like looking out for her. But I'm not too sure how much that's true, given the fact that this is General Eiling we're talking about here, who's a bright scumbag. Oh wait, that's right. This is Oh no, never mind.
Oh, of course, a political loophole. Oh, why should he believe them?
All right, come on, kitty, come on, get down, get down.
Makes
You
sense
keep.
during the makes sense in the Reagan era. This is happening. Focus on security.
Yeah. See, when did Reagan get out of office exactly? I forget. Hold on.
88.
Yeah, 88. Okay, thanks. I was gonna look that up.
Phase 2. Oh, I still have to enter MCU Phase 2. Help. Ooh, looks like the end. Hmm. 1940. It was 1968. Oh, I guess that's not Reagan. Oh my god, they're gonna make him fight. They're gonna make him fight classical superheroes, aren't they? Oh my god, I could see that.
Not necessarily. The idea is,
Well,
of course, for him to lead a superhero team called the Justice League of America, um, which is to like get these heroes together under the control of the government.
okay.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's the first issue there. What'd you think, man?
I like this. It was interesting. I like I like that kind of comic book cheesiness. Some people say that's stupid. I say we could use more of it these days.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I do tend to think that I do like the standalone nature of some of these comics and whatnot, and how it is that they flow from like a singular story, if you would. But let's all be honest, really, when you're doing a comic and you're like releasing them issue by issue by issue, you're obviously gonna have to tease the next issue. That's just how it is, really. I mean, no way around it, really. So
And well, I like Captain Atom so far.
yeah, it's very interesting, especially the way in which you reacted was basically how you would how anyone would probably react after figuring out, hey, I was just thrown forward in time, and now everyone I know is dead. Everyone I used to look up to is dead. Everybody's already dead. Sorry, just had to throw in a Zack Snyder reference there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what'd you think about the artwork, by the way? It's pretty old timey, huh?
I I I like that kind of retro stuff. I don't need high definition graphics. To me, I've said this before. I just need to be serviceable, and I'm happy.
Yeah, yeah. I think the same thing too. In fact, my particular view on the whole thing is that art should reflect both its time as well as like the the type of style you do as well. And I do think
And
that the 80s art style with comics works pretty well for what it was. In fact, I kind of wish we would go back to that a little bit. Could you imagine the modern way in which we write comics? I mean,
you know,
coupled with like the art style back then, that would be great.
I mean, don't want to lie. I have never read comics much in my entire life. When I was younger, I really wanted to. I thought it would be interesting, but it just it's kind of a it's. I always preferred reading novels and just letting my imagination fill it in. It's only just in recent years I've begun reading comics. So far, I've read just three entries total, which is Captain Atom right here, and Tales of the Jedi, and Star Wars Republic. I started Dark Empire, but I never finished that.
Ah, okay. So we have a newbie to comics, and that's interesting. I didn't know you were so new to the comic world here.
It's just life is an endless quest to avoid boredom, and since I kind of avoid modern media from 2010 onward, at least for the West, what I feel is why not go back to the past? Because that's the thing. Definitely gonna have a set date that I quit reading when it comes to like DC and Marvel, and some people say that's because of they don't like the really ham-fisted liberal politics. To me, it's like it doesn't matter. It's just there's very little that's new, very little flourishes, and with strong corporatization, you're just gonna get less and less good stuff as time passes without some kind of uh, reclamation by the fans or by people who do the most work.
Yeah, yeah. In my mind, the way I see it is that there are some good modern comics beyond 2010 that are
Mm.
worth going through. Just not
But
New
big,
52 in particular, but there are a few entries in New 52 which are really good. Like the Wonder Woman entry, I've heard was really fantastic. The way in which they did Superman, I heard was really good in
the
New
big,
52. But for the most
like,
part, a lot of the praise that DC has been getting recently is from their Rebirth initiative, which is basically to take the stuff that was good in New 52, reintroduce it into the main timeline, and just continue the post-crisis on Infinite Earth stuff within that context. So
yeah, so maybe it's not comics, but it's the big name franchises, and we can see that DC and Marvel have been around for way over 50 years. It's closing in on 100, to be honest. Star Wars and Star Trek are way over 50 years old. Same with Doctor Who. Doctor Who is going to be, what is it, 60 years old? And I've been of the opinion for a long time that for any intellectual property you love, by the third or fourth generation, it's time to check yourself out because it's going to lose more and more of the core spirit that gave it meaning, just as a function of time. And what we see today.
yep, that does seem to be the case. I mean, certain series, like for example, The Wizard of Oz, has been going strong for quite some time, but that's because it's in the public domain and the fans have access and control over a lot of it. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I love the idea of public domain. We need more of it. But, I used to I write fan fiction. My big thing has been Dragon Ball Z. I really wanted to write a post-crisis story featuring Dragon Ball Z, but I'd never read the comics. This was like what 2014 before I even figured out places you could read them online. Like I figured it out in 2017, so it's been a few years. I just hope this can help me write those someday. I like the idea of like Gohan and the Justice League. That would be great.
yeah, yeah, I had a little bit of a fan fiction going on. In fact, I still am kind of developing it a little bit here. For the most part, but it's basically the idea is that Brawley instead joins the Justice League, but instead of like it being one which,
Broly.
yeah, yeah, but instead of it being like something along the lines of like Brawley from the Dragon Ball Z universe, instead I've sort of melding the various different like elements of Dragon Ball Z into the DC universe to make it seem like they've been here all this time, that they've been here for a long time,
You're
specifically the
trying.
Saiyans. And the Saiyans are
You're,
like a precursor species, if you would, who had
you're,
their planet destroyed but the Saiyans are quite different. Instead of being this brutal mercenary type race, it's like always it's always trying to become the strongest that they possibly is. The idea is, of course, that they're more warriors and guardians that sort of inspire the inspire the creation of the Green Lantern Corps, if you would,
You're, tr-
and the
you're
idea is,
trying
oh, sorry, go ahead.
you're trying to make a composite universe, basically
Yeah,
shared universe.
yeah, and of course the idea is that with the Saiyans, their attitude is that they want to fight the strongest beings, but they want to fight the strongest beings primarily. They're picking on the weakest ones, because weaker ones, because these beings, they have no honor, they have no like form of warrior pride, and not to mention what they doing picking on the weaker beings and whatnot. In fact, these weaker beings could be strong. We should protect them and foster them and help them grow, if you would, so that way they can be on their own. And of course, it's like a little bit of a mentality in which that they have this thing called Saiyan justice, where in which, of
Yeah,
course, that they're protectors, as opposed to like just warriors who just kill because it's fun.
I feel like for any DC Dragon Ball Z fan fiction, it's a lot harder than people think just approaching it, because you have to explore how the settings can interact because they're totally different in a way that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of the ways in which it makes sense. This, by the way, is like I have it to in which the Saiyans are what was it? They're somewhat of an advanced species, but a portion of their species flung themselves out into space, and they crash landed on the Tuffle planet, if you would, and as a result, the Tuffle planet, the interactions happen, and the Tuffles got genocided by the Saiyans. But anyways, when their cousins, the more advanced Saiyans, find out about this, they're like, "Holy shit! We can never let this happen again." I mean, genociding an entire advanced species that didn't really do anything to them, that didn't really oppress them in any particular fashion whatsoever. They just happen to have this sort of bloodlust, this sort of setting in which that they reverted back to their more primitive ways. Like, holy fucking Christ! And this sort of had a deep psychological thing with regards to the Saiyans, in which that they thought, okay, genocide never going to happen again on our watch, especially by our people. So, that was a turning point to turn them from sort of Saiyans who like to fight to Saiyans who will fight to protect the weak and to help the weak become strong. You know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's just one idea I had. I basically just come up with ideas. I haven't fleshed them out yet. Is this idea that the Green Lantern Corps has always existed, but due to Frieza being like a tyrant who'll just blow up planets without a second thought, it makes it very hard to fight him because he doesn't care about collateral damage, and so it's possibly after that they're like this resistance movement in the galaxy, just doing what they can to slow him down, and that after Frieza is defeated, to put a check on the Super Saiyan is that Mogo got the Green Lantern ring to Krillin. I like the idea of Krillin as the Green Lantern Corps. That's just such a cool idea, and especially since if you recall that the yellow impurity is the weakness to the lanterns. That if that was present in this continuity, that would also make sense because it's like
Okay.
cancel each other out.
Yeah, that sounds fairly interesting. Um, when it comes down to it, that's pretty something that I would probably love to read if ever you write it down.
But the DC universe is so immensive and immersive and rich and big. It's gonna take a while before I know a lot of DC lore.
Yeah, at least to the point where you're comfortable writing a fan fiction on that. I get that.
Yeah. One thing I'm doing at the moment, at least, is commissioning my good friend Hirokata. They're an artist on DeviantArt who commissions Dragon Ball Z characters or from other anime as members of the Lantern Corps. They've done uh, Green Lantern, uh, Teen Gohan, three poses for Yellow Lantern Frieza under the Sinestro Corps, Red Lantern Vegeta, Green Lantern Nanoha, and there's more on the way.
Mm. Very nice, man. I'm glad you're having that done. Definitely a lot more than I've done so far. So, uh, I'm still kind of in the process of writing my first chapter. In fact, let me go ahead and bring it up real quick. Hold on.
Another reason I suggested going to the Green Lantern from the Silver Age is that Mogo and Weasel Pawn are introduced in that era. I mean, they don't really do much until later, but they're still introduced, I guess. I don't know, but if they don't do much, I guess it doesn't matter because I like Mogo and Weasel Pawn. They're the most interesting Green Lanterns I know of.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Lantern of Greed in particular, the Avarice Lantern, is like one of the more interesting characters because he's a piece of shit in a lot of ways, but he's one of those pieces of shit that you kind of want to root for. So
Yeah,
you know,
it. That's another picture I got. Is Orange Lantern Frost. If he somehow got the ring, it really fit his character.
yeah.
It, it I one idea I find interesting is imagine if Cell was constructed with Lethal Pawn, who was stolen and kept in like a beaker in Jiro's lab, or Force Sensitive Tissue was like a midichlorian. Imagine Cell created that way, thanks to Lethal Pawn and a midichlorian.
Anyways, yeah. So one of the things I end up writing, I've only got like about 7 pages onto here. But anyways, I wrote it to one which the Saiyans have like one ship controlled by an AI, and each Saiyan has like a particular ship like that, really. But because the planet is destroyed and whatnot, they're like on this hunt for like technology that will help revive their whole species, and as a result of that, like they are utilizing something called a Chronos field, which will allow them to simply suspend themselves in time, to which will basically um, allow them to like be able to search for this technology and allow the ships to scan various different planets, etc., and so forth. Because the idea, of course, was that the Saiyans were somewhat paranoid about people learning things about them because they believed that would open them up for weakness and possibly destruction because they're very how do I put this the their rituals and their customs are very important to them as a people. So, and there's a particular custom when which all the Saiyans are brought to their singular planet for a week of festivities, of celebration, and basically being in peace. The idea is, of course, that war is something that they're used to dealing with, but they also enjoy peace, and during this week, of course, that's like when all the Saiyans go to their planet. Now, of course, this is done in secret because they feel like if anyone found out about this, their species would probably get destroyed, and that is kind of what happened there. There were only a handful of survivors: the king, Brawly, Turles, and his father Paragus. So yeah. Um, but basically the idea is that I had the Justice League end up responding to some kind of distress call out in space. While they're like traveling back home from one of their missions that we don't get to see. That's kind of irrelevant for the most part, but does play a role in this because what they end up doing caused someone to send a bunch of assassins towards them, which end up causing the destruction of the ship. But basically, the idea is that is that the ship is in something called the Medusa corridor, and this is how I explain it here. I said I thought those coordinates looked familiar. This is Hal speaking. That giant debris system you're talking about is known as the Medusa corridor. It's, as you said, a solar system-sized density of debris from countless ships. About 65 million years ago, a series of battles took place when the debris kept piling up to the point of choking and suffocating the system. Apparently, the battles involved a single ship in the in the middle near the system's sun. All the ships were decimated, but the ship became trapped, unable to move. Supposedly, at some point, the debris field was found, and scavengers began picking at it, and going further, only to never be seen again. Apparently, the old ship that is trapped in the center has an AI that moves the debris in a way, creating maze-like entrances that shift and change. But once you enter, nobody leaves. So, and that's how I explain this little thing here.
Yeah, it's I I usually go into that detail, but right when I'm preparing to write, it's just one. I'm more of a George Lucas type ideas man. I think of ideas, but I need the connecting dots in between it. Sometimes it's easy to form connections, other times it's not. The thing I find interesting is this idea that Mogo, by virtue of being like a sapient planet, could move the Super Dragon Balls at any time that he wanted to. And I do like that aspect of Dragon Ball Super. Those are interesting.
Yeah, yeah. The idea that the Dragon Balls were created by something called the Super Dragon Balls, which it's like the the naming conventions don't really make much sense, but I can kind of look past that. Um, and as far as like it can grant any wish without any limitation whatsoever. It's pretty cool, and I like the fact that the Dragon Balls have to be like gathered from two different universes, meaning that even if you were to find these things in your universe, there's no guarantee you'd be able to gather them all, given the simple fact that you have to travel to the other universe, and apparently the only other people that can travel in between the universes are other gods. So
Mm, mm,
yeah,
mm.
but yeah, that's really all. I guess that's pretty much the end of the stream there, I suppose. Did you want to close out with anything interesting, perhaps a self promotion or whatever?
Perhaps what?
Promote your channel here. I mean, I'm not really big at all that. In fact, no one's really come in here to chat, in the in the YouTube chat live stream or whatever. But throw it, if you can,
I
throw it
like
on your channel if you can.
I like being individualistic. I don't like the bigger YouTubers who get a high number of subs, and it's like that changes them. So all they have to do is keep catering to that hardcore fan base that, and they don't shake up their talking points, or they get stuck in a rut, and it's like the money takes over. I'm not a fan of that. I want this to be like a hobby, not like a business. And
Oh yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. I get that. I'm going to be treating this like a hobby as well myself. But for me, I like the idea of gathering an audience and having a group of people that are willing to listen to me at the very least. Because at the very least, it like makes it feel like I'm not talking to myself. You know.
uh, one thing I do think that we could do one day that you might find interesting is join me and my good friend Iron Wizard once he finishes Dragon Ball for a Dragon Ball Z podcast.
Hmm. That might be. I'd be up for that if that's the case. Yeah. So, alrighty. I'm gonna end the stream now. Hope you guys appreciated it. We were hoping to go through 11 issues, but unfortunately, the comic we were reading was a little bit longer than I remember. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. If you guys didn't like it, give a thumbs down, but make sure to give me some feedback so that way I can, increase my performance, increase the entertainment value of what we're doing here, and get a little bit more subscribers. Uh, Anyways, hope to see you all later.